Hello, everyone. I'm Hye Jung. I'm Android engineer at Slack. Today, we are going to talk about how Slack Mobile does accessibility. Here is our agenda, processes, tools, and best practices. Since I think we'll have a 5-minute at the end, so maybe if you have any question, I can try to answer at the end. So processes. We do have a lot of processes. Some of them work well, and some of them don't work well. So this slide shows what works for us very well, and the next slide shows our other processes that we don't use them frequently, but still we have in place. We have a dedicated team for the accessibility at Slack. Desktop has 5 front-end engineers, and then EM and PM and 2 designers. For mobile, we have a 100 engineer, me, myself, and then currently iOS position is vacant. We plan to hire iOS accessibility engineer this year. So it's not the right audience, but if you know any great iOS accessibility engineer, please let me know. We have a regular accessibility mobile office hours with accessibility PM, designer, and engineers. So people can ask questions about design, implementation, and testing, and so on. TestFest is a bi-weekly accessibility testing session that is led by engineers. It has been working really well for us. At Slack, we don't have any manual QA anymore, so every other week, a group of mobile engineers who are very familiar with accessibility testing gather and test a few new features or explore different types of assistant technology to see how Slack mobile apps work. We have accessibility onboarding for every new hire, so they can get familiar with other processes and best practices to make our mobile app accessible. We do have an accessibility monthly newsletter to highlight accessibility effort or wins from that broader team and share accessibility news or learning materials from the accessibility community. We also have a feedback channel for internal employees and external users. As you know, Slack is a part of the Salesforce company. Salesforce is a big company. We have 80K something employees in the world globally, and we have a lot of internal employees who use various assistive technology. Their feedback has been super helpful for us. As you know, the gathering accessibility feedback is very hard because a lot of times people don't take time to write accessibility feedback, either positive or negative. If that's a positive, probably then they don't write any feedback. Or if it's a really negative, they unfortunately or sadly, those people with a disability, they just they used to use those inaccessible apps, so they don't mind just writing feedback for us. Also, due to privacy reasons, we don't collect any user data about assistive technology use. So we don't know actually how many users use a Slack app with their own assistive technology. So for this reason, internal employees and then external user feedback, I feel really particularly grateful for their feedback. We have ongoing, this is more processes, and then some of them we use it, but sometimes we don't frequently use them. We have ongoing accessibility user research through a third-party company, Fable. I know some of companies in the Bay Area, I heard a lot of times they use them too. When we request a research, we can specify a user's operating system, iOS or Android, or experience level, how tech-savvy they are when they use assistive tech, or the familiarity of the Slack app too. That also makes a big difference. Or type of different assistive technology. Like if you don't know what assistive technology is, it's like the technology that helps those people with a disability, like a screen reader, or magnification, or switch, or those kind of things is all we say assistive technology. We have accessibility consultation with the accessibility expert from outside. This has been mainly work for the desktop team for many years, actually. But mobile started taking advantage of their help, too. This happens weekly, and a lot of times we talk about UX and prototypes, or we have also shared channel, and they report any issues that when they use a Slack, and then we can actively fix the problem as soon as possible. We have a weekly accessibility regression testing by a third-party company. And as I said, we don't have manual testers, so we use a company. And Slack Mobile, we have a weekly release cycle, so we do weekly regression testing. accessibility is part of that. We have a bunch of test suite, and then the company report any accessibility regression from their testing. Or also, the feature team can request the accessibility testing when their feature size is large. This is required by our release checklist. We do have two different sets of accessibility checklists depending on the size of your feature. So when the feature is pretty small, we have a bunch of checklists, and then each team can have their own bug bash, and then you can check mark the accessibility checklist. Or if that's a large, you need to do more extensive testing to release to the public. There are core flows from our incident process as other big companies. If accessibility is broken from those core flows, we can call an incident immediately, and then owning team should fix it as soon as possible. BPAT stands for Voluntary Product Accessibility Template. If you have an enterprise software, you are very familiar with this term. Google also released their BPAT for their own product. There is a website for that. You can check it out. This is optional, as the name suggests. We are enterprise software, so it's essential for our university or government or enterprise customers, so they can see how accessible the Slack apps are. Also, it's very crucial to close the deal from the sales team. So you can imagine, So we recently finished a new round of BFAT this year after our major UI change, especially desktop side. We have a big UI change, you all know. And so we have been busy with triaging those issues. These are some screenshots of our mobile accessibility test fest. This is really working well. That's why I just had some screenshots here. Test Fest is the place where engineers bring their features and then test accessibility with other mobile engineers. So engineers are responsible for the accessibility testing. So before we ship features to the public, we sometimes see folks from the product or design, but usually it's a bunch of mobile engineers. On the left, this is a template we use. You can choose a platform, iOS or Android, and technology area is a bunch of them. I just captured some screenshot. Priority or severity of the issue. If you don't know, usually I can just consult them. This is the high priority. You should fix it immediately. Something like that. Issue description, and we also attach the screenshot. And then once the triage is done, we also create a Jira ticket, and so you can also, at the last column, you can also add that. So we know what tickets, what bugs are triaged by a team. On the right side, this is an example of our announcement in the mobile accessibility channel. We do huddle in the mobile channel, and so people can join easily. We do have a recurring mobile, the calendar invitation, but the huddle has been very useful. So whenever they have time, you see the huddle icon, and then you can jump in and then try to test their whatever they want. This is a screenshot of our user research through the Fable. Fable will hire a tester based on your requirement, and then moderate session even if you cannot make a meeting, and then you can watch the meetings later. You can see each session and the recording with the score based on the tester's evaluation here. You see some of the iOS has a 78 something scores. I personally found this type of user research is very super helpful for me, my personal growth as an accessibility engineer. I learn something new every time and have a better understanding on how people use a different disability, use assistive technology with their own customization. So this is a screenshot of a mobile accessibility newsletter. This is a great place where we can highlight accessibility effort from the broader team. Accessibility work is a lot of times invisible, or people don't really recognize them because most of the people internally at Slack, they don't use assistive technology daily. So it's important to recognize any accessibility effort from the IC, product, or design, so they can be more motivated and then also be an accessibility advocate in their sub-teams. In addition, we also share the news and tips from the Google accessibility community, especially last month was a Global Accessibility Awareness Week. So Google and Apple announced a lot of new exciting updates. So we share those things, and then we are up to date about those news. Tools. I think a lot of people here are probably developers, so this is probably your interest. So it's a lot of information. This chart shows what tools we use during the development and release cycle. On the left side, you can see the color contrast, touch target, content label, large text, screen rotation, light and dark mode. And on the right side, you can see the development phase. During the design phase, designers use one of the Figma accessibility plugin. So we use a lot of times designers from the design system. When they introduce a new colors or theme or something, they always make sure they check the accessibility of their new design Figma. During the dev phase, we collect accessibility-related lint warnings, and this score is used to evaluate our code health. If any of you attend this morning's Valera's Android code health session, you probably know what that means. All the accessibility lint warnings, we resolve them from our legacy view-based code. So any new accessibility lint warnings right now is errors, so engineers need to fix them to merge their PR. And for the compose code, as far as I know, the Karen may fix from, may fix me, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Google released accessibility lint for the compose code, so unless you use a UI check mode from the compose preview. Once those lints are available in the compose code, we can probably include those accessibility lints again to the Android code health, so engineers are motivated to fix them. Android accessibility test automation is not perfect. Some research from the DQ, they said it can cover at most 50 or 60% of the accessibility issue in the code base. So it never can replace the manual testing. We still try our best to catch any low-hanging accessibility violations here on the left side during the test phase. We enable Espresso accessibility checks on the root view while running our UI testing. We have more than 1,000 functional Espresso UI tests. So on each PR, we run everything and then check if there is any accessibility problems from the updated test or anything, we just report and the engineers need to fix them to merge their PR. We recently implemented accessibility test automation with a third-party paid SDK. We also have a snapshot testing in place, so we can test a large text, light and dark mode, or screen rotation. For the screen reader, manual testing is honestly the only way to test properly. So our new mobile accessibility SDK, paid one, can catch some of the missing labels, complex state, and so on. So it has been pretty helpful in some cases. You may wonder why you have an Android scanner, Espresso things, and free from Google. Why we need a more paid SDK? So we found while evaluation, we found this new mobile accessibility paid SDK. They claim use AI. Everybody is saying AI. So we found that they catch a little more accessibility errors. And then their reporting the capability is amazing. So it's really easy to find, look at what is the errors and what kind, and then also their error shows the matching VCAG criteria. And so this is the area why this is the error, something like that. During the release cycle, Play Store pre-launch report is available. I personally don't check them regularly, but sometimes it reports something useful to take a look. Best practices. I think I don't have much time, so I'll just be quick. Improving accessibility from the design system has been very useful. On Android, 95% of our screen use a UI component from our design system. So we spend a lot of time to improve accessibility from those components. The one thing to note is a myth. The leadership always think, your component is accessible, but why do you need more testing? And although each component is accessible, there is still a chance that your final screen is not accessible when your components are combined on the screen. We want to make sure our final screen is accessible by manual testing, especially for the screen reader, but navigation is really hard to test. We believe TestFast has been super helpful for mobile team. We expect everyone at Slack knows how to do accessibility testing and then make sure our labs is accessible. Highlighting and recognizing good accessibility work is important so people can be more motivated. And it's importantly, leadership, they want to see something. They are not go to some specific mobile channel, accessibility channel, and look at who is working on accessibility. They'll not do it. So, compiling the list of the work and then sharing with the team, broader team, is very important to recognize those things, and the leadership knows what we are doing. Sharing accessibility knowledge is very important too. As an only sole Android accessibility engineer, recently I found we have some very important accessibility regression on the message reading and then and editing mode. So I didn't realize a lot of Android engineers didn't know how to do extensive talkback testing. There are a lot of gesture on the talkback. So I recorded a video and then how to do with what kind of gesture you need to do to check your message in the viewing mode or editing mode. So I got a feedback that was super helpful. So I'm asking other teams, and whenever they change the code on the message formatting or our core flow of the message rendering area, I want to make sure they test all those areas. We'll talk back. So this is it. Thank you very much for coming. And if you have any question, I think I can take some questions.